Thank you everyone for coming tonight. B'ezras Hashem, this is our weekly Tuesday night shiur. We have a really crazy, if you guys are in the WhatsApp groups, if you're not in the WhatsApp group, let us know, we'll add you. We have a really big meal, and then we have the shiur right after. Really quickly, just to get the sponsors out of the way, B'ezras Hashem, Eliyahu ben Giti should have his Yeshua that he's looking for. The Refuah Shlema for Harav Eliyahu ben Malchas El-Tanad. B'ezras Hashem for Ehtana Bat Ruhi, Sohela Sarah Bat Ram, and also B'ezras Hashem, Natamni Yaakov ben Sarah should find a zikr. Okay, so last week and the week before that, Harav spoke about Shalom Bayit, divorce, why in our generation as time progresses, so many more divorces are happening, so many more fighting, so many more couples are getting broken up in the religious community, not in the religious community. So Harav was going to, he was addressing why, how to prevent it from happening, so there's more peace, and there's more peace in the house, and there's not as much fighting and battering. So Harav is trying to say, look, 100 years ago, it wasn't like this, where 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 couples, whatever the statistics are nowadays, they would get, divorced. Less in the religious community, but still, it's very high, much higher than it was before. Harav was saying maybe 100 years ago, it was like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in every 2,000-3,000. It was very rare. But as time goes on, the statistics they keep on going the opposite way. The rate keeps on going higher, and more divorces are happening. So Harav is trying to say, we spoke about this before, but to kind of do a really quick refresh, in the olden days there wasn't so many luxuries like we had. Basic things we're talking about, like a refrigerator. There wasn't refrigerators. They would dig like a hole in the ground or whatever they would do. There wasn't electric appliances or gas appliances, so all of a sudden turn the fire and the fire would turn on. They would have to go get wood, coal, whatever, light the fire, smoke going here, goes in your eyes. Really annoying. Go cut the wood, break the wood, bring the wood. Coal or whatever it was, smoke would go all over the place. Now what do we have? We just go to our stove and it turns on. Even we have a smart stove, you can do it through your Wi-Fi. You can do it through your phone, boom, the stove turns off. It turns off before it burns the food for you, that's the sensor. Harav is saying, look, you know what they would do for chai? Like what we do right now, we go to the samovar, we go to the water urn, what is it called? Tea, what is it called? Samovar?
Urn.
Urn, it's not an urn. It's an urn? It's called an urn? Urn, electric urn. Plug it in or whatever. Back then they would go, it's funny, I've only seen them do this for hookah, but they take the coal and they would put it in it basically had like a metal little chain, and on the bottom of the chain was like a little ball, like a little capsule. You open it with holes all around it. You would put the coal in there, lit coal, and then close it, and you have to keep on swinging it until, you know what I'm talking about, until the coal will lit light.
It's a hookah.
Anyway, that's what they do back in the day. Now what do? You turn the thing and it's done. But the whole point was very difficult. Who had the patience to go on and take the coal and spin it and get it and cut it and do all that stuff? It was really annoying. Also, they were saying like for traveling, it was also very difficult back in the day. It wasn't luxury like we have today to have cars, Uber, buses, any types of transportation. You wanted to travel, hot, cold, get on the horse, get on the carriage, get on the car. It was on such a good road. There wasn't any road, whatever it was. It was very difficult. I was saying, look. Also, like for example, like a broker, like a real estate broker, when you would want to go do work, you would have to go door knock, write down the addresses, go up and down the street, walk in the sun, in the winter, in the hot, whatever it was. So therefore, because of all these hardships, whenever little things would make the husband and the wife happy. So after having such a long and hard day, when the husband would come home, if the wife just gave him a chai and gave him a chai, it was like it meant the world to him. He would sit down, relax, drink his chai, and that would mean a lot to him. But nowadays, the opposite is happening. When we eliminate all the luxury, when we eliminate all the hardships that we have, and we start going towards luxuries, where we don't have to leave our house to order groceries, the Amazon things come the next day, or we don't even need to get off our couch, and we can do these things. These luxuries cause us not to have hardships, and we start becoming, I think what I was trying to say in a sense, poru, in a sense like, start getting used to the luxuries, we start expecting more and more expectations. And if you don't have certain things, don't go your certain way, things that you normally wouldn't have cared about, now you care about. Like when you come home and the food is not exactly the way you wanted it, you throw a tantrum. Or, your wife doesn't make you a tea when you got home, you have to ask her, why didn't you just make a tea, I told you, or whatever, you start becoming more expecting of things because of the lifestyle that we live. So that's why religious community has less divorces, because they keep Shabbat, they keep kosher. They follow halachot. So many things you have to be careful about. Bishul Akom, Bishul Sfard, Beit Yosef. Is it Chalad Israel? How many things you have to think about? One thing that all those hardships that you're imposing upon yourself from keeping Torah and the mitzvot, that causes you to the little things that you see, their expectations drop a little bit because you want to go home and just want to relax. If you drink one tea, you're fine. Your expectations of luxuries go down a little bit, and that brings the divorce rate down because there's less fighting, less bad fighting with each other and so on. So that's why Harav is saying also like Shabbat, Yom Tov. There's a lot of things. Also Chol HaMoed. Many people don't know. The halachot are very serious on Chol HaMoed. You're not allowed to work. You have to wear separate clothes. You have to eat different foods. Harav said, I think last time or the time before, that anybody who works on Chol HaMoed is in chelek olam haba, without doing teshuvah. On purpose, who doesn't do teshuvah and all that stuff, yeah, in chelek olam haba. Who knows he doesn't have to, but he goes anyways, or they can maybe not go for a couple of days, but they go anyways. So it's pretty serious. Harav is continuing and saying, in the olden days, weddings were super simple. The weddings weren't so grand, and as you see now, the standards weren't to spend 150 grand on a wedding. It was a lot less. It was a lot more simple, less expenses. So therefore, Harav said also last week, for those that were here, listen, that Ayin Hara has a very big thing to do with this. People think, Ayin Hara doesn't exist. But it does exist. Harav explained it last week, that the reason that Ayin Hara comes and has power is people that have sins, that do sins, what happens is you create a negative angel based on that sin that they commit. And what happens when you do an Ayin Hara, if you go and you start spending and doing things that are catching people's eyes and luxuries and cars and whatever, people start saying, oh wow, look at this car, they start eyeing you. Look at this guy's car, look at this guy's wedding, look how much he's spending. Wow, look at the 150-inch LED screen behind the stage, whatever it may be. And when people start doing that and eyeing you, that causes, in Shemaim, Harav said this last week, that those sins that you created, those angels come to Hashem and say, Hashem, why do you give this guy so much money? Why is his life so easy? Look at this sin. Look, he created me. He created this. And they open the book and they start saying, wow, yeah, this guy did a lot of sins. And that itself causes kitrugim on the person, causes severe punishment type of things on a person. And that's called Ayin Hara. By spending a lot of money, you're causing people to talk to you and eye you. Back then, the reason there wasn't so many divorces is because they wouldn't spend so much. They wouldn't have a 25-piece orchestra or crazy foods, a million kinds of foods, Brazilian sushi, this, that, whatever, alcohol. Our shir is okay because we have all those foods that we come here and we listen, I think so. That shir. Whatever, all those things that they would do, that caused a lot of Ayin Hara, and the Ayin Hara would lead it to. They would come and they would go to Shemaim and they would point the finger and they would open the book and say, "Look, this guy has all this," and then that would cause itself to get a divorce. Also, Harav is saying, look, in the olden days, that's why we said having a very simple wedding is ideal. Spend less. You don't need to spend so much money. So also in the olden days, ladies would come to the women would come to the wedding super modestly. They were dressed modestly. They weren't dressed the way they are dressed now. So what happened is Harav said they went into detail about this last week, but the Kitzur in the short, the Shekhinah comes in a wedding and rests on the bride. And it comes with 7 malachim, I believe Harav said. And if the bride and the guests and all the people there and all so on and so forth, and nobody's really dressed modestly, the Shekhinah does not come. Shekhinah does not come in the foundation of a bride and groom. And when that happens, the exact opposite comes. So there's a rule that either there's good or there's bad. You can't have both of them at the same time. So either there's going to be the Shekhinah, or there's going to be the negative angels, the Tuma, the Klipot, or whatever you want to call them. They're going to come there, and it's either A or B. So the absence of Shekhinah leads to those Tuma coming. So that's also what causes a lot of fighting. They come in this, there's no Shekhinah doesn't come at the foundation of the wedding, and then all these fights later on start coming back. So as opposed to in the olden days when everybody was dressed really modestly. But now in the household, also another point that also causes many people bring a lot of newspapers, articles, things that are borderline kofar. Basically, they're atheistic views. They don't believe in Chas Shalom and Hashem and all these things, or any God in general. They don't believe in God in general. I'm saying. Also, they're against religion, and also there's a lot of immodest pictures and stuff in those things. And when you bring those into the house, those create and attract tuma, and it comes to bring in the house. So when you're looking at those things that are super immodest, those things they attract these things to come inside your house and cause the husband and wife to fight. That's why in the olden days, there wasn't that many fighting because they didn't have what magazines. What kind of these magazines didn't exist back then? These kind of stuff.
Facebook.
So I asked her about phones, and I asked her about TVs, because Harav said magazines and stuff. I'm like, so what about TVs?
Internet.
Internet, yeah.
Another level.
Yeah, of course. Because I asked the Rav, I'm like, we said, okay, magazines and stuff, but nowadays it's more, people watching TV and this and that. He's like, magazine is a dead thing. It's over here. It's not moving or talking. When it's moving and talking like a TV and live, that's like 100 times worse. So, really, watching your eyes in the house of things that are immodest is super important. Just to bring the bracha inside the house and bring the shekhinah in the house. Again, Harav said if the shekhinah's not in the house, the opposite. Anyways, so these things didn't really exist back in the day. And also, even when people listen to the radio, a lot of times the person speaking on the radio is borderline kofar. They don't believe atheists. They don't believe in this. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in this. And they're sitting here talking about all sorts of things that don't have to do with anything. That itself attracts these negative angels to come inside the house. And those angels, when they come inside the house, the shekhinah has to leave, and there's fighting. So all the source of bracha comes from. So Harav is continuing to say also there's one more point that also causes the divorce rate to go up, a lot higher. Is that Harav is saying this is not for everybody, so don't take it super literally. But it says in the Gemara that anybody who has music in the house, there will be destruction in the house. It says in the Gemara, but Harav is going to explain. So what does destruction mean, first of all? Destruction, first of all, means what? Like the roof is going to fall down? No, not the roof is going to fall down. It means that there's fighting, the kids go off the derech, the kids end up going and marrying non-Jews somewhere. All this is caused destruction. It's not necessarily meaning like the drywall's going to come down. Write down your questions so you don't forget. Write it down so you don't forget. A regular house, a house that's Harav said Shalom, a regular healthy house is the opposite. The kids listen to the parents, there's no fighting, there's no, crazy, the kids go off the derech, they end up marrying this, that. It's not like that. So Harav said he'd give you the quote, the source. In the Shulchan Aruch and Orach Chaim over there, it says in Simon Tav, Kuf Samech, it says that Tisha B'Av halachot. This is the source, so everybody's listening can go look it up on themselves. It says because of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, it's asur for us to listen to music. But then it continues to say, only for the people who are perfectly fine mentally, it's not a therapeutic thing for them. They're just listening to music because they want to enjoy it, right? That brings destruction. We're not talking about people that, are having really bad anger, or, their temper is really there, or they're really anxious, or they're just super... music is a therapy for them, in a sense. Those people, it's the opposite. You're allowed to listen to it, it's fine. To the point where Harav said that Harav Ben Sion Abba Shaul wrote in his book that he can even listen to music on Tisha B'Av night. On Tisha B'Av. So we see that, there's opposite extremes. So it really has to do with the kavanah of a person. If a person listening to it just to chill, get some enjoyment, that's the problem. But if a person, it really helps him calm down, or else he'll fight with his wife or something, or whatever, and he sits there and listens to music and it helps him relax the brain. And by the way, we're talking about music, we're talking about kosher music. We're not talking about like crazy bad words and that kind of stuff. Or even stuff that talk about love stuff. We're talking about kosher music. That's actually the opposite. You're supposed to, you're allowed to listen to that, and it's therapeutic for you. It loses the status of listening to your enjoyment. It holds the status of being medication for you. Like when a person is sick, they take medication. This is like a medication for the problem. So in the Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam also, Harav is quoting the Rambam, he says that all kinds of music that also hear the instruments, for example, violin, flute, piano, so on and so forth. When the Rambam said this, he knew he through Ruach HaKodesh what's going to be in our days, that we're going to have access to all these kind of instruments, this, that, and phones and all that kind of so on and so forth. So when he said basically he added to the explanation means through Ruach HaKodesh, he said not only music but the instruments as well. So if you look, Harav again gave the source in the Shulchan Aruch. If you look over there, it says that these are only for the people that are not sick and not upset, and the music is not therapy for them. They're just listening to it to listen to it. Like I said, Harav Ben Sion Abba Shaul even came to the point, he said, Tisha B'Av, for those is a kind of a danger that the guy literally might go around, and if he doesn't listen to music, or she doesn't listen to music, they'll kill themselves, they'll cut themselves, it becomes dangerous. Even on Tisha B'Av, it's okay, listen to the music. Because it becomes like a medication for you. So Harav said, we're talking about families who specifically don't care about these things. They don't care. And I asked Harav, why is it so important? Why is music such a big deal? I asked him, is it because of the Shekhinah that is in Galut? He said, yes. Ever since the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed and the Shekhinah went into Galut, we're not, this is when the asur of enjoying and just sitting there and enjoying the music came from. So because of that, That's why it says that there's music in a house, destruction comes. Fighting, the kids go off their religion, go off to derech, marry non-Jew, all that kind of stuff. Wow, so Harav is continuing and saying, therefore, based on what we said before, those that are not, their asab is fine, their mental state is good, they shouldn't just sit there and listen to music they shouldn't just sit there and listen to music just to enjoy. They're good in a mental state, they're good, music is not a therapy for them, then it's asur. So, Harav said something really interesting. He said, don't think, oh man, now I can listen to music, what am I going to do? I'm going to be so sad, I'm going to be so this, so that. Harav said exactly the opposite is going to happen. And Harav is saying, he said on camera, he said, test it. He said, put aside the music. Hashem is going to make something where inside of your heart you genuinely get happy. Happier than you would be if you listened to the music. Harav said, for example, you're going to see all of a sudden, there's less fighting in the house. We're not banging heads as much. We're going to see that the wife is going to listen to the husband, the husband's going to listen to the wife. You guys are going to respect each other more. He said the kids specifically are going to start excelling in school. You see that the kids are doing super well. Good grades, excelling, top of their class. That brings, how much enjoyment does that bring for you? That brings you more enjoyment or music. That for sure brings you more enjoyment. So this will bring really a lot more genuine happiness. Harav said, people, they do the opposite. They listen to music, their kids are doing bad in school, there's a lot of fighting, all these things. What's better? Don't listen to music, you have this or this. Harav's not saying don't listen to music, this will happen, but Harav's saying listen, test it. Try it, put it aside, and see what will happen for yourself. Harav is trying now, he went into this extent to bring down, he brought a bunch of sources of where he's getting all this stuff from, besides the Shulchan Aruch that we brought down the Siman. Harav was going to say, there's a Rav, his name was Rav Chaim Silvani, he's from Yavan. He was the Rebbe of the Rav Mordechai Shirabi. Huge Mekubal. Teman. And he was a huge Mekubal. He was the Rav of Rav Mordechai Shirabi. So one Sukkot that we know as Yom Simchatenu is a Yom of Simcha. One Chol HaMoed, they go and his Hasidim, they go and they bring an orchestra with some violin and some flute and this and that, so on and so forth. And they go to him and because what would happen when the Beit HaMikdash was built in the Chol HaMoed, they would bring an orchestra of like 3,000-4,000 people, and they would come and they would start like a massive orchestra. It was like an unseen thing, where they were all playing music together. It was beautiful. It was a big simcha. So in memory of that, the students when they did this, because it was Yom Simchatenu, it was Sukkot. What do we say? We say in all the tefillah Yom Simchatenu. One time the students, whenever Chaim Silvani did this, they went. He lived in Yehud, and they went and they tried to make him happy, bring all this. The second he saw it, he said, "What are you guys doing? Stop immediately." He said, what are you guys doing? Put all this away. Don't stop immediately. To that extent, where he made all his students stop, everybody stopped. So 150 years ago in Yerushalayim, Harav was saying there was a really big, there was like a plague. A lot of bad things were happening one after another. And I believe Harav said, Rav Meir Oivrach, Rav Meir Oivrach.
بله بتگه ایشون بدن بله.
Okay.
Was there a Shalom on Robert's father?
پدر Rav No, it wasn't. So what would happen is he did something where you ask a question from Shemaim in your sleep. You say a prayer before you go to sleep. I think you write it down on a piece of paper, you put it under your pillow or something like that, or they would have in a dream, it would come in a dream, whatever. Well, ask him the question. Ask him actually if he can still do that these days. And you had to be like super pure, super kadosh, super tahor. You would do this, and in Shemaim, in your sleep, they would give you the answer. So he did this, and Rav Meir asked, he's like, and he asked Shemaim, Hashem, what is going on? Why is there so much destruction? Why is so many plagues? Why? They come and reveal to him in a dream, because in the weddings that you guys have, like I said, I think he was in Yehud or somewhere that was close to Yerushalayim or whatever. It was in Yerushalayim. It was basically close to where the Beit HaMikdash was. He said because of you guys in the weddings, you guys are bringing orchestras, even though on a wedding, music is permitted in a wedding. But regardless, it's too close to where the Beit HaMikdash was. Because of this, all these plagues are happening. So the Ashkenazim immediately, that's why they got the custom to stop this right away. And to the extent where they don't, even nowadays, the Ashkenazim, they don't really believe so much, and they just maybe like a tombak or like a, it's not like a full-on orchestra.
In Yerushalayim specifically.
In Yerushalayim specifically, yeah. To this extent, and how important it was that even in music, where music is allowed, they wouldn't, all because it was close to the place where the Beit HaMikdash was, that's where all these bad things and all these things were happening. In Shemaim, it was revealed to him. So we see to the extent of where Harav brings the stuff, bunch of sources, and you can see there. Oh, and Rav Ben-Sion Abba Shol also wrote in his book that he says not even on Purim you should listen to music. You should be careful even on Purim. Rav Ben-Sion Abba Shol, the thing of Parat Yosef, said be careful not even on Purim, because people on Purim go crazy and all that stuff. So even to that extent. כבוד הרב, وقتی میگی موسیقی هراب بنسیون آبا شول علاوه شالom که میگه حتی در پوریم هم موزیک بهتر نه، منظورشون اینه که اگه ما یه رادیو بذاریم اونم هنوز بده یا موزیک زنده، یعنی هر موزیکی بهتره که نباشه. So it's just not only live music. We're talking about like a DJ's problem too. Don't DJ. So Harav is continuing and saying, look, on the contrary, don't think that, I'm going to put away music, I'm going to start end up getting sad, all this is going to start happening, I love music, I can't live without music. If genuinely you're fine, you're just listening to music for enjoyment, because you're used to it or whatever, Hashem is going to do the opposite for you. He's going to give you so much enjoyment and genuine happiness that you're going to be like, wow, I thought I was happy listening to music, but it's the exact opposite. So many things are going right in my life that I don't even care about that anymore. So Harav is saying, Maran, Rav Yosef Cairo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, came down and said, he had a magid. Now what's a magid? Harav explains that if a person does a mitzvah, like for example learning Torah, L'Shem Shamayim, super right, kadosh, pure, he ends up creating a malach. This malach is called a magid, and this magid comes and starts going, it goes into your mouth, and through your own mouth, it starts talking and teaching you Torah and giving you musar, so on and so forth. So Maran, he actually created a magid through, because he was learning a lot of mishnayot. He ended up creating a magid, and this magid came through him, and through his own mouth, started teaching him a lot of musar, what to do, don't eat too much food, do this, go to Israel, you need to go there, all this. So before the Maran goes to Israel, I think Harav said in either in Greece or Turkey, what happened was one Shavuot night, the Maran was there, and also Rav Shulon Algabitz, the author of the Lecha Dodi, was there, and also Rav Yeshayahu Chordowitz Halevi. He wrote some book on Rav Yeshayahu Chordowitz and Chivut Chi Habrit. Shenil L'Hod Habrit. It's some, I'm sure it talks about, whatever, modesty and so on. And they were all there together, and then all of a sudden the Magid came through the Maran's mouth and started talking on behalf of the Shekhinah, of Hashem. And he started saying, lucky are you guys, look how lucky are you, you're sitting here learning Torah, making Hashem happy. How lucky are you guys? And then they continued talking. He said, listen, on behalf of the Shekhinah, the Magid is talking. He said, if you guys experience one trillionth of the pain and sorrow that I'm in, the Shekhinah is in, because it's in Galut, you would never have one trillion, 1 elif, however I've said it. That means 1 trillionth. You would never even have, the ability to put a smile on your face. To that extent. So a person, Harav is saying, look, to this extent that how we see how important it is, a person needs to do his own thing to show that he's also upset that Hashem's Shekhinah is upset. And when a person does this, Hashem blesses him so much. When he recognizes Hashem's pain and he tries to connect with Hashem's pain, Hashem blesses that person with so much parnasa, shalom bayit, happiness. All the brachot come because he's trying to connect to Hashem. He's trying to relate. You're in pain, I'm in pain. I'm doing my own part not to enjoy or to show that I'm not. Anything that you can do, and Hashem will bless that person so much more. So Harav is just saying, those are the main points of why divorce is so high. Now that you guys want to be successful in life, these are the things you can do that's going to help you big time.
ברכה וסקהל.
מי שברך אותנו לקטין אברהם יצחק ויעקב אברהם וצלם ושברם ויוסף דוד המלך על המזרח ברך ויפעל לברך את כל הקהל הקדוש הם ימשיהם להם בכל זרעיהם ברכת העם יברך כל אחד ואחד שיעלה מעלה בתורה בירת שמיים בדקה שיהיה ביתו בנוי משוכלל בלי שום חורבן בשום נסער בשום מחלות בדקה בבנים קדושי עליון בנות צדקניות אמן כן רצון
آمین. که داره و مخیلا کن یه برخا برای اونایی که پول دادن برای